Expeditions Rome is the most underrated CRPG I have ever played. It came out January 20th, 2022. I'm one of those guys who actually liked history in school, I like Rome, and am a huge CRPG fan. And it sat in my library untouched for 4 years until Expedition Samurai hit early access this month and finally shamed me into playing it. 50 hours later, I'm recommending it without hesitation. But there's one thing you need to hear first, because it'll decide whether you put 50 hours in or bounce off of it in the first 4. Rome is built more for the XCOM crowd. Coming off something like Wrath of the Righteous, expecting deep character building, you're going to open the game, see 5 class options and minuscule skill trees, and feel pretty empty. You're going to have Princeps as the shield and heavy armor frontliner. Velis is the fast dual-wielding damage dealer, and in my opinion, the most fun for a main character. Sagittarius is the archer class, and Triarius is the support medic style character that can also be built as a frontline murder machine. They have 3 specializations each, no multi-classing, no dipping, and by hour 10 you've already pretty much decided what direction your character is going to go, and you're just filling out the skill trees for the rest of the game. They also introduced a DLC that includes the Gladiator specialization, and personally I thought this actually felt like the weakest and least enjoyable of all of them, and probably would have been just fine without it. It functions somewhere between the front line of a Princeps and the dueling power of a Velis. In combat, every character gets 1 action point per turn, 8 movement points reduced by how heavy your armor is, and 1 tactical item. You can't dump all 4 abilities and delete somebody the same way that you can in some other RPGs. This is also why I would label it as more of an XCOM style game than a true CRPG. The Princeps holding a doorway with a shield is going to be doing a lot of work for you from a tactical standpoint, rather than just sprinting them in to get flanked from all angles. Each class really does have very powerful strengths, but also weaknesses, and it's very important you use them all to maximum effectiveness to get through the missions. This isn't really a game where you soup up your mage to basically just one-shot everyone on the first turn. Of course, by the end of the game, this contract really does break down a bit, where your characters become so powerful that you do not really need to follow any tactical rules, and we will get to that shortly. The Velis in particular is where things get a little crazy. Its class skills spend focus points instead of action points. It can spend focus on rush to refund the action point it already used, and there's a reaping effect that hands you a fresh action point on every kill. So on a crowded map, a Velis chains across the whole battlefield in 1 turn, dropping bodies the whole way. I ran Velis as my main character, and it turned into a one-man show where 1 character clears the map while the rest of the party holds the door. Which sounds pretty broken, and that's because it is. Because once your equipment and skills compound the difficulty curve, flattens pretty hard. Personally, I am fine with this in a CRPG as long as it doesn't happen too early in the game where every combat just starts feeling the same. But do be aware this game does suffer from the same problem as every other CRPG out there. To a certain degree, this issue also happens in games like XCOM, where by the end your equipment and characters are so kitted out you pretty much just wipe the map in 1 turn. Something that does keep it a little bit fresh is that skills attach to the weapon or weapon and shield combo that you're holding and run on limited charges. So swapping gear changes what you can physically do in a fight, and makes looting a little bit more interesting by changing up your character's playstyle with some new skills. Partway through Act 1, you take command of Legio 6 Victrix, and get a second minigame on top of the normal combat. Centurions lead the Legion in conquests, while Praetorians fight in your tactical squad alongside the named companions. Both get hired from the same pool with completely different jobs, and to be honest, I do think the game explains this sort of poorly and a lot of things around camp. I assume it's normal enough that people regularly hit Act 2 with half a squad and have no idea what's going on. It definitely takes a little bit of tinkering to get used to all the systems that this game introduces you to. Conquests are the low point for me. You assign a commander, draw 3 stratagem cards at random, pick one, and watch numbers come back. There's progression since you can research new stratagems, and Praetorians with the architect trait develop them faster. But it's a card draw with a die roll underneath, and it's mostly just feeding commanders and manpower into a machine that returns results you feel like you didn't really earn or do anything for. At the end of the day, it's just a pretty boring number generator, and I usually just auto-resolve combat as quick as possible in those sections. The Outpost layer is a different thing entirely, capturing iron mines and lumber mills and feeding that into crafting with pacification missions that want your legion garrisoned in a sector while your party physically stands in it, so the strategic and tactical maps keep pulling you in different directions. Nobody is going to call this game Total War, but it does something almost no other CRPG manages, which is making you feel like you're commanding something instead of just adventuring throughout the land. Pulling your legion out of a half-pacified sector because you need it somewhere else is a decision that's pretty much exclusive to this game and this genre. There are 5 main companions, and every one of them reads as a pretty cliche introduction. Casso, the noble legionary, Cineros, the wise Greek tutor doubling as the party medic, Bestia Tibet, the freed gladiator brute, Julia Kalida, the archer who joined disguised as a man, and Daenerys, a second princeps pulled from a gladiator school in Act 1. If you stop early on in the game, the cast is going to feel pretty flat, and I've seen online complaints talking about this, but the companions do evolve over time and can take on some pretty interesting traits and storylines. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're the best companions ever written, but they're certainly far from the worst. They also track how you talk rather than what you do. Their personality traits can create friction against your own personality traits, so picking a line your princeps hates will get you told about it on the spot. Deciding what to do with a captured enemy commander means weighing the outcome against the other 4 people with 4 different opinions, which can put more pressure on a dialogue choice, to put it bluntly, to not piss off your companions. Separate from your combat class at the very beginning of the game, you will pick a social class at the start, Ethos, Logos, or Pathos, which are effectively authority, evidence, or emotion, and that's how your legate wins arguments for the entire campaign. I played Logos, and it significantly shapes how conversations can go and how your characters behave. I know people love hearing this, and it definitely rings true in this game. Your decisions do matter. They absolutely can shape your campaign in ways that can drastically alter each playthrough, and can have wide-ranging results from a decision very far back that you had completely forgotten about. The campaign moves you from Asia Minor to North Africa and Egypt to Gaul with a 5-year time skip in the middle. Between the Greek islands, the North African coast, and the Gaulish forests, I thought the art direction and world felt pretty good throughout. The camps fill in with the texture of a legion actually on campaign. Soldiers drilling, smiths working, conversations running, and this world truly did feel lived in, and like it was something being shaped around you and what you were doing as the leader. And as a surface level enjoyer of Rome, it really felt like the devs definitely dug in to try and give an experience, dialogue, and characters that acted within that time period correctly, which made it feel more immersive and is certainly appreciated. For performance, on a 5070 Ti and 13600K, it runs excellent. 4 years on, it loads fast, holds frames, and gave me absolutely nothing to complain about. The game currently sits at 86% positive on Steam, 80 on Metacritic, and the most common complaint from people who finished it is that they just wanted more. The main story runs about 41 hours. Most players land between the 50 and 65 mark with side content involved. The list price is $45, which is too much for a 4-year-old game in my opinion, but it does go on sale very frequently and is an absolute must-buy on anything under $30. If you liked XCOM 2 or Wasteland 3 and want a story campaign built around that combat, grab it on the next sale. Or if you're just a history fan tired of every RPG being about elves. If you're here for the kind of deep character building Wrath of the Righteous or Rogue Trader delivers, Rome isn't going to give you that, and if the Legion command is what's selling you more than the party combat, the half-baked Conquest card system is going to heavily disappoint you. So probably just go play a Total War instead. Samurai is currently in early access on Steam, and I will be digging into that as it releases. Please like and subscribe if you want more content like this, and let me know in the comments what your most underrated CRPG out there is. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.